You're listening to Dateline Latin America, Tear Gas and Tango with
Joe Goldman, 37 years with ABC News, then with UPI, with The Village Voice, and many other.
And me, Daniel Schweimler, originally from London, formerly of the BBC, 19 years, and more recently with Al Jazeera English across Latin America.
They'll be sitting at a kitchen table in Buenos Aires talking about their journalistic adventures across the region, covering earthquakes, flooding and fires, talking to presidents, charlatans, sports stars and other newsmakers. In short, journalism and the state of the world.
Hi Joe, welcome. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm good. I've just got back from Chile, as in Chile for a week, Valparaiso and Santiago, where mostly I took the opportunity to eat. Food that is different from what you get here in Argentina, especially seafood. I mean, seafood in Valparaiso, view over the sea, looking out over the Pacific. I mean, I'd say some of the best seafood I've ever tried anywhere. So spectacular.
And the seafood is so good that they don't do much with it, and it doesn't matter. It's perfect.
No, keep it simple. Yeah. So, I mean, what I like about Chile, different to Argentina when talking about culinary stuff, is the variety. I mean, they've got a big Peruvian influence. A lot of Peruvians live in Santiago and elsewhere, Bolivians as well. So you get that variety. Fantastic, markets everywhere as well. So really good fresh produce. It's the only country I know where you can probably take drugs or guns in. Well, you can't take those into the airport, but they're stricter on fruit and vegetables going into Santiago Airport than almost anything else. I saw a woman almost get arrested for having an apple in her bag. Took the apple away. Other things probably overlooked it, but the apple, you can't do that. They guard their food very carefully. The Chileans.
Now, you don't want to eat meat, generally speaking, in Santiago in Chile, just like in Argentina, you don't want to eat fish.
It's probably true, yeah. I mean, what's the joy of eating in Argentina? What would you say are the joys? I mean, there are joys to eat here. It's a great place to eat, but what's top of your list?
First of all, I've been here 40 years. When I first came here, it was hard to get anything but meat and potatoes. Even like salad would be lettuce with maybe a slice of tomato and maybe an onion.
Yeah, but that's still the case, though, isn't it? They can't make salads in Argentina. I mean, some of the best meat. I mean, they'll pride themselves on the amount per capita that they eat. It's got expensive, so I think you're right. Many years ago, that was all there was, and I remember going to these big asados. I mean, what's for starter? Well, we've got kind of liver or just bits of who knows what it was, and the second course was meat, and the third course was meat, and then somebody would bring a salad, a piece, as you say, a piece of lettuce and a bit of onion. And what's that for? Well, it's decoration. Nobody eats the salad, It was just meat.
No, and even salad dressing, they don't know about it here.
No.
They give you the oil and maybe vinegar.
Yeah.
I remember going to Santiago years ago, covering Pinochet, and I had friends who were young people during Allende, and they talked about these German sandwich places that they have there, and they loved those German sandwich places. I didn't get too hepped up about it, but I didn't say that to them.
Oh, they're still there. I've seen they're still there, and they're still very popular. I think the other big German influence is Kaffee and Kuchen, so the cakes, big portions of cake we saw everywhere.
It's interesting. Obviously, we can start talking about Peru when it comes to the gastronomical designs of a country. Peru is at the top of the list in Latin America, I would say. Peru and Mexico.
Yeah. And Peru, I think Latin America and the world as well. I think, Peruvian cuisine is finally, winning plaudits, praise. I mean, it is phenomenal. Lima, there are chefs competing with one another to be the best chefs in the world and opening their restaurants around, Latin America and elsewhere. So, I mean, that is where you go. I mean, here in Buenos Aires, the best, when we go out for a special meal, we'll choose a Peruvian restaurant.
Yeah, a lot of times, absolutely. It's wonderful. It's got a Japanese influence that's incredible. They also have influence from the Amazon, from the mountains, from the coast, and even from the desert. There's desert areas in the south. And each region of Chile has its own amazingly interesting foods.
Mm, mm.
Um, it's just a wonderful thing. And there are wonderful places in Ecuador and in Bolivia. They don't have the panache of a place like Peru. Peru really knows how to sell
Yeah, no,
their
for sure.
their
Yeah.
food also. Because I go to Ecuador a lot, and I swear I have the same wonderful meals in Ecuador that I do in Chile, but you don't have those top restaurants like you do in Lima, for
Right, right,
example.
right. Well, the other thing I remember Ecuador, I mean, the beer is fantastic. Coffee is
Yes.
great. I mean, situated as they are so close to Colombia, it should be. And chocolate. I mean, they will claim they have the best chocolates in the world. I mean,
Yeah.
the cacao growing on the kind of edges of the Amazon jungle there. And I've been to one of the chocolate factories, and seen them producing the things that go into the kind of vanilla and the, other thing, the lemon, the citric fruits that go into their chocolates as well, and
Yeah.
absolutely stunning. So
They
that's
are big. I believe they passed Brazil. They're now the biggest producer in South
a
America.
quality chocolate.
Quality
Yeah,
chocolate.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, the thing I remember about Colombia from going to Colombia a lot in the 80s and early 90s, especially from Ecuador, going through Pasto and covering Cali, there are you go to places where there's beautiful coffee fields,
Mm.
and you go to a little restaurant and they serve you Nescafe.
Yes, I was always shocked by that. Yeah, and they're proud to.
Stunning.
They think that's what you want. They
Yeah,
think that you want the
yeah.
instant coffee.
You're looking at them and they didn't quite get it. That has changed
Yeah, yeah.
quite a bit.
The other play with coffee, Argentina, big coffee drinkers, some of the best confiterías, cafes anywhere in the world. I mean, here in Buenos Aires, you've got our 80 or so cafes notables, the
Yeah,
notable cafes, stunningly beautiful places, great service, old style waiters with white coats. But for years, the coffee was crap.
yeah, yeah.
It's a coffee. I mean, coffee was considered part of the coffee drinking part of the heritage. And we once did a story on this and went round to some of these cafe notables. I don't know how many cups of coffee I drank that day, and then got questioned by our bosses about our expenses. Drinking all this coffee, 1 cup of coffee a day should be enough. We had to explain to them the story we'd been doing. That's got better, I think, simply because there's so many Colombians living here now. They brought their barista skills to Buenos Aires, Venezuelans
Yeah.
as well. And it's notable that almost every cafe, restaurant you go into in Buenos Aires nowadays, usually are Colombian, Venezuelans working there.
A lot of gourmet
Gourmet, yeah, gourmet
coffee.
coffee, yeah. Chile the same as well. A lot of Venezuelans again bringing their coffee making skills to
Mm.
Chile. So, but coming back to Argentina, I mean, there is nothing. The food's limited, but what you do get, coming back to the meat, there is nothing like. An asado, an Argentine asado is there. Sunday morning, you start walking around the streets of Buenos Aires, you'll sniff men's usually the men, they don't cook the rest of the week, but they'll pride themselves on preparing the parrilla, the barbecue. So the coals are being heated up, ready for the big afternoon asado. And there's
Absolutely.
nothing quite like it, is there? The salads are crap, but the meat is phenomenal. So, and we even have it at work. We have an office on the 12th floor of a dull apartment block downtown. And even built into that 12th floor apartment block, there is a grill, with a
Asia.
chimney, a parrilla. Yes, so we can have on a boring Tuesday afternoon. The cameraman will bring in the meat, and and he'll have prepared it the night before, and we will have a full asado. Not often, but as a kind of special treat for birthdays and all the rest of it.
Now, you are about to embark on having workers come in and construct or reconstruct your house.
Hmm.
When we did that a number of years ago, Fridays were meant for asados for
Yeah,
the workers.
right.
So they would have a grill and they take off maybe at 1:30 in the afternoon, stop working, grill their meat, and just sit down and eat chorizos, sausages. You had an interesting story about your
Well, we're
workers.
told haven't met them yet, or met them very briefly. I haven't moved in yet, but we're told they're from Santiago del Estero, which is a province, one of northwestish or central North Argentina. They're bringing their own cook with them, so he's going to come in every day. He's not going to mix cement or anything like that, but he's got cooking skills. It'll be grilled meat. That's what the guys will use to, keep the strength up. And
Well,
yeah,
it's
so
good that he's not mixing cement because he might mix the cement with the food.
he may well do, yeah, yeah. So I'm looking forward to watching that. So that'll be an interesting. So meat is great here. Meat is fantastic. Argentines will tell you they make the best pizzas in the world. That their grandparents, great grandparents brought the pizzas from Italy, and the Argentines improved on it. Do you agree with that?
Some of the best pizza that I've had has been in Sao Paulo,
Mm,
which has very good. Now, pasta in general in Brazil is awful.
right.
In Sao Paulo, there are some great Italian restaurants, and there is really good pizza.
Well, big Italian community, isn't there? In
Yeah,
because
it's
we were looking at the list of the best 100 best pizzerias in the world. Obviously, Italy, New York, and Sao Paulo were, I think, the cities or the countries that dominated the top 100 list the most.
exactly. Yeah.
One Argentine pizzeria, Diamo, it's called, in Adrogué, which isn't even in Buenos Aires. I've never been there. I know people who have. It's a different kind of pizza, isn't it? Much thicker, loads of cheese. And when I came here with quite good cholesterol when I first moved here, couple of years of living here with media lunas, croissants, full of manteca butter, that and pizzas with thick, thick cheese, cholesterol shot through the roof. So I'm having to cut back.
Now they don't have very good desserts here, which is partially because they have all this meat going on,
Mm.
and by the time you finish eating, you don't want to know about dessert.
And the desserts you have got always got dulce de leche.
Yeah.
So the Argentines, if it's not meat, it's dulce de leche, kind of brown toffee like, what I don't know how you describe
My
it.
boys accuse me of being anti-Argentine because I do not like dulce de
Right,
leche.
yeah. You're one of the few people I know who doesn't. I know one other person who doesn't, and she's also accused of being anti-Argentine, doesn't like dulce de leche. But it goes in your pancakes, your hot pancakes, which I do like, on top of your cream caramel, which is quite delicious if you like dulce de leche. Ice cream flavors. There's 7 or 8 different varieties of dulce de leche ice cream. And ice cream is also very good here, though, isn't it?
Oh, ice
Okay.
cream is
Yeah,
fantastic
yeah.
here. I think we were just in Italy in March, and I have to say the gelato of Italy cannot hold a candle to
Mm,
what you have in Argentina. And I mean, in the little place in the smallest barrio, they have really good homemade ice cream.
right.
Wonderful ice cream. No, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, so
Yes.
good ice cream, pizzas depending on your taste, meat probably some of the best in the world.
Yeah.
That's kind of it, though, isn't it? We've got empanadas, your little, I don't know, kind of pastry things, always the same. Queso, y jamon, cheese and ham, sometimes with onion, sometimes with meat, sometimes with chicken, but always the same. They're nice enough, but as a snack.
Yeah.
And then milanesas, like breaded veal, isn't it?
We would call it veal parmesan,
Okay, yeah,
which is
yeah,
interesting because that would tend to think you get that from Parma in Italy, whereas here they have Milanesa Napolitana.
okay.
Now, Milanesa tends to mean Milan, from Milan. Milanesa Napolitana is the most south-north divide I've ever seen. Once again, I'm not a huge
Yeah.
Milanesa fan, and my kids accuse me of being anti-Argentine.
But if you leave Buenos Aires, sometimes that's all there is. You travel in the provinces, you'll go to places that sandwich the Milanesa or Milanesa con, I don't know, a tiny bit of inadequate salads.
Yeah.
The only alternative is a Suprema, which is exactly like a Milanesa, but chicken.
Yeah.
So not a great deal of varieties.
Now, there is in the western part of the country, I have to say also in the northwest, Salta,
Mm.
Jujuy has brilliant food and it's very spicy, which is very different than most Argentine food.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have to buy my ajis, my spices, my chilies under the counter from the Bolivian, because most of the greengrocers, fruit and vegetables here are produced by Bolivians and sold by Bolivians,
Yeah.
as we know. And they will eat picante, they'll eat spicy, but I'll have to often ask, and I say, "You got anything, under the counter?" I'm not Argentine, really. I can handle it. So, and that's how I buy. Occasionally, they've got these ajíes, these chilies, which are super, but not for the Argentines. No, they don't like their
Yeah.
spicy foods. How they survive in Mexico, I've no idea because yeah, they know
You
spicy.
spent quite a bit of time in Mexico.
I was there for a year. I loved Mexican foods. And I was told I was living in the capital in Mexico City in DF, and was told they have food from everywhere you could possibly want. But what they meant was every single state of Mexico. So they had food from Tabasco, no, from everywhere, and that was spectacular. So, and usually, yeah, tortillas on the roadside. So a guy with, I don't know, 50, 60 fillings to put in the corn tortillas, which are absolutely spectacular. Great way to live and super healthy as well.
By
So,
the way, I have to ask something I loved in Ecuador, but you have to have the taste right for it. Cuy,
oh yeah, yeah.
which are the little guinea pigs.
Guinea pigs, yeah. Kept as pets in some countries,
Yeah,
eaten in. I remember going to the market in Otavalo in northern Ecuador, and women, indigenous women, Otavaleñas, walking along with sacks over their backs, which were moving, kind of squirming. And I realized when they got to the market, they were full of live guinea
yeah.
pigs, ready for sale, but to be eaten.
And when they cook them in vats of oil,
Mm.
and people eat. It's something. I
Did you
remember
did you tr-
being
did,
with
did you try
a
them?
couple of eight. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I went with some ABC people. We were doing a story on from the U.S.
Oh, Snowden, Ed Snowden.
Snowden.
Yeah.
He was supposedly coming to Ecuador, so we were like on a watch. And we went out one day, went to the highway, and alongside in the highway they have cuy for sale, all in the area outside to the north of going towards Otavalo.
Mm.
Um, and there was a sociologist who did a whole story on how cuy is different from other, like chickens, like farm animals. People have cuy as pets
Mm.
and then will eat them.
Right. Incredibly rich. I mean, there's not much meat on them. They're little animals, but incredibly rich. Like rabbit, maybe. I don't know. Trying to find
Yeah.
the nearest equivalents.
And the other thing is, they put an incredibly luscious sauce
Hmm,
on the cuy.
yeah.
So when you're eating the cuy, you're kind of crunching with this sauce. It sounds disgusting,
Hmm.
but it's actually good.
Well, some of the best food I had in Ecuador, in Quito, I went to watch a football match, Deportivo Quito. I don't remember the game. I don't remember the score. What I do remember was the whole match, indigenous women walking around the stadium during the game with like trays over their, hanging from their necks, selling different kinds of food, including cuy,
Yeah.
and sandwiches or whatever. It was spectacular. And you can also drink beer there as well. So cold beer in a plastic cup while you're watching the game in the main stadium in Quito. It was a culinary, if not a footballing delight.
Now, in your time in South America, after your time in Mexico, have you found a Mexican restaurant that would be considered good in the area?
No, not in Argentina. I mean, there's the Tex-Mex style restaurant. There was one very close to where I used to live, a taco box, which is I'm not a big fan. Oh, I'm fine, but it's not Mexican. There have been one or two in Buenos Aires, again because it's often spicy, and Argentines don't like spice. Same with Indian restaurants. There's a couple
Yeah.
here, but only a couple, because again, and when they'll say something is spicy, it very often isn't.
Neil, you just got me into where is the best Indian restaurant, I think, in the world. I love the Indian food in London, even though it's a city under Sharia law,
So it is, yeah.
but I love it. But the best place I ever went to was in Georgetown, Guyana,
Wow.
an Indian place. Now, about 45% of the population is population that came from India and Malaysia during the British reign there. There's a lot of restaurants there, but I remember my cameraman and I went to one restaurant where you had, I cannot describe this place other than to say that there were probably 15 TV screens with different Bollywood movies.
Hmm.
There was music blaring all over the place. It was a fun, crazy evening and the best food Indian food I've ever had.
It's one of the joys of the work we do, isn't it? We travel a lot and we have to eat. So, yeah, and often, I hate to say it, but paid for by the companies. In my case, the booze, no, the booze we pay for ourselves, but the food is, while we're traveling. One of the best I've ever had, most greatest surprises, Fortaleza on the Brazilian coast. And there's a place on the seafront there where the prawns come in. And it's prawns that have been shelled, that haven't been shelled, big prawns, small prawns, and they're all laid out there for the wholesalers, for people, the restaurants to come in and buy. But at the end of each row of different kinds of prawns, freshly delivered, so the guys are selling the prawns, the family, the wives and the daughters are often cooking them at the end of the kind of the row, with the end of the display. So you choose your prawns, they pass them down to the cooks at the end of the array, and they'll cook them and then bring them out to you with a cold beer on the seafront. And that was just spectacular. It's one of the great joys of traveling and eating in South America for me. If I had to pick one of my favorite, surprise meals, that would be one of them.
There have been some memorable meals in all my years. I remember going into the jungle and being at a jungle area and eating food that the owner was actually from Nebraska. And his wife, who was an indigenous woman, was cooking and cooked these amazing pancakes with all kinds of different fruits and vegetables. Well, the fruits in general in South America are really wonderful.
Right. Not in Argentina so much, but the rest of, I agree. Bolivia,
Even
Brazil,
Chile has
yeah, Chile,
chirimoya and all
yeah,
these wild fruits.
yeah.
Brazil is so wonderful in the north.
Mm.
In the Northeast, you have juices that are just beyond belief.
Yeah.
Cashew juice, some of the just amazing juice bars.
And often sold by the roadside, aren't they? So if
Yeah.
you're traveling just to stop and grab a juice, anywhere around, outside of Argentina, almost anywhere else. Yeah.
It's getting better.
Yeah.
And Argentina has wonderful vegetables, squash, tomatoes, fresh vegetables. It's really pretty wonderful.
Mostly
It's a lot better, I think, when I first came here, but
mostly home produced. They don't import very much, do they? They import their bananas from Bolivia or Ecuador, but everything else, and they're quite proud of the fact that they come from the kind of, Rio Negro and other places around Argentina. They don't have to import. So, I mean, they're losing it a little bit because a lot of the good land has been given over to soya production because that's where the money's made. See, it's much more lucrative to produce soya than it is carrots. As a result, carrots disappear and the price goes up of what's left. So that's an issue. But yeah, you're right. It's
other
very
thing
good.
is the country is so overwhelmed by the meat sector, and people it's actually dropping a lot. The amount of consumption of meat per capita has gone way, way down.
And it's got expensive, hasn't it? We're in yet another economic crisis, and I would say the quality. Some will argue the quality. I mean, the joy of Argentina, we had the pampas. I mean, the fertile grasslands produce some of the best, still does some of the best meat in the world. But a lot of it's been given over to more, intense kinds of farming, the feedlots as they call them, cows just crammed into sheds, without that same freedom. So, or again, land is being given over to soya production, fertile grasslands, because soya is quicker and more lucrative and easier to deal with. So that's an issue here. Yeah.
But if you have river fish in the north, there's different dorado, you have surubi.
Surubi, yeah.
There's some terrific fish dishes that Argentines basically. I remember being in Entre Rios, which is north of Buenos Aires. You're on a river and they're fishing the river, but they're sending all of it outside to other places.
Yeah.
Um,
There's no tradition in Buenos Aires, is there?
tradition.
But yeah, it's a thing. Meat dominates, doesn't it?
It's really, and there is I mean, look at the coast. It has a huge coast, and it's a coast where there's a lot of fishing going on, but most of the production is all sent out.
Yeah. Brazil as well. I guess you mentioned the fruit in Brazil, but again, it's a meat country as well in many ways, isn't it? The churrascarias, these places where you go, many kinds of meat are produced, but on the grills, on these big sticks. and you have the waiters walking around, non-stop, just sliding the meat off the skewer onto your plate. And they give you these little like traffic light things, green and red. And when you really can't eat anymore, you turn the traffic light to red,
That's
and they'll
right.
stop serving you. But it's all about quantity, I think, far more than quality. And this very popular, the food that they weigh. So you go into these kind of buffet style, different quality, sometimes very good quality, sometimes all right. And you start off just kind of perfecting the art of balancing as much food on your plate as you possibly can without it falling off.
And
So
you also don't eat for the whole day.
don't
You
even the
go
whole
to
day, yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's all about self-service, pile on them, and then they'll weigh it's incredibly popular everywhere you go in Brazil. So,
the other thing in Rio, one of my favorite restaurants is Marius Gustasio,
uh-huh.
which is in Leme at the end of the whole
Well, next to
line.
Copacabana, isn't
Yeah,
it? So, yeah.
the last. And this is literally the last place on there. And it's a restaurant where they do like the meat places, like churrascarias, except it's all fish.
Right.
And it is wild and wonderful. I don't know if I'm going back there because I don't think ABC is going to pay that
Mm.
anymore because it is an expensive place.
Mm.
But it's a place where you don't have lunch, you don't even have a snack. You go there empty stomach and you just eat and eat and eat, and
Mm.
it's wonderful.
Another place we've not mentioned you can eat very well is Bolivia. I mean, in the city in La Paz. I mean, there was a time where there were a lot of French chefs, for whatever reason, setting up shop in La Paz. Some of the best Vietnamese food I've ever had is there. It doesn't have a big immigrant community, but there was a couple of Vietnamese restaurants, but also the one that you mentioned earlier,
Gustu.
Gustu, yeah, which was a Danish roots, doesn't it? So,
Yes, Klaus Mayer was known as one of the best chefs in the world. He was one of the co-founders of Noma, a restaurant in Copenhagen with three Michelin stars, I guess they are. A very, very well-known restaurant. And he decided to move to Bolivia and he opened Gustu. You've been there also,
hmm.
Ben. It's an amazing restaurant in La Paz, which really works to try to find ways to recover recipes. One of the first things Mayer did when he got there was he got together 80 and 90-year-old women from different areas of Bolivia to ask them about recipes that they remember when they were young. So he has all these different recipes and he utilizes, first of all, the potato
Of which
crops.
there are many, aren't there? Many
There's
varieties.
so many varieties
Yeah.
there, as well as peppers.
Hmm.
There's all kinds of varieties and he's done all kinds of experiments with what you can do with some of the local production.
And
And
the only local production, isn't it? Only Bolivian sourced
oh, yes,
food. Yeah, nothing comes from outside. Even things like it's not known for its production of wine or cognac or anything, but they will somehow or other produce absolutely everything using Bolivian
yes.
produce. And the other great thing, this is high quality, top end of the market food, very expensive, but he's worked with people in La Paz to teach local chefs up in El Alto, kind of north of
Absolutely, yeah.
the high mountain bit of La Paz. And one of the ones I went to, which I absolutely loved, they were working with mostly indigenous women who were selling sandwiches near the La Paz bus terminal. And a great kind of area where and what they did, they improved everything. They worked with hygiene first of all, cleaned the toilets up, made sure that everything was spick and span and as it should be, but also the quality of the sandwiches. Again, sourcing local produce, making sure the bread was great, the service was good. So brought their expertise to these women who were already pretty much experts in their field, but improved it for a wider market. And it was spectacular. I mean, there was prizes given, and we went to one of the prize giving sandwich stores. A sandwich to remember.
And if you go to the Andean countries, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, and even a little bit in Salta and Jujuy in the northwest of Argentina, you go to a little town, you go to a hole in the wall, excuse me
Mm.
for saying it like that, but just any place, and they have something called the menu,
The menú del día, the menu, yeah,
right, which is the
yeah.
lunch. And usually it's for, in Argentina these days, I don't want to say, but it's usually about $3.
Mm.
And you get a soup, a wonderful soup, You get a plate and you get some kind of dessert and maybe a water.
And good wholesome stuff, isn't
Oh
it? So
man,
lots of
the soups
corn,
I've
lots of
had
potato. Yeah.
in
So
Bolivia and the fricassee, what they call the fricassee, the chicken or pork, is just wonderful with the most wonderful spices.
mm,
The soup is so hearty, and on the lake,
Titicaca.
Titicaca, I
Yeah.
think, if you go there on the Peruvian side, no, on the Bolivian side, there are women who will serve you what is the closest thing I found to a potato knish
Okay.
in South America. And they are wonderful, wonderful. And you go and you're in mountain communities which are very cold. And when you have a hot soup over there, it is so wonderful.
Right. What are you having for dinner tonight, Joe? What's on the menu?
Not Milanesa Napolitana. I think we're going to go out and have Chinese food.
Okay.
40 years ago, when I first got here, it was hard to find a Chinese restaurant.
Hmm.
Now there are some fairly good Chinese restaurants. Japanese restaurants, nothing like Sao Paulo. You know, you don't have the fish quality here that you do in Chile or Brazil or Peru. And there's Chinatown here, which, once again, you know, Chinese food, when you have Hunan and Sichuan and different styles in other places, because the Argentine palate does not like spice, it's generally fairly boring. You
Right.
have to ask for the spice
Can
on the
be, yeah.
side.
So you're off to the Pantanal in Brazil, aren't you? So, well, I
Yeah.
believe they have alligator on the menu. So might you be dipping into some of that, you
Yeah,
think?
I've
Yeah.
had before in
Hmm.
Guatemala, and it kind of reminded me of poultry in some
Hmm.
ways. I will be having that there, and supposedly they have amazing fruits and vegetables. When I was in central Brazil for a few weeks back in 2004 in Goiânia, I ate fruits that I've never seen in my life.
Hmm.
I remember there was this one fruit that you had to peel because the outside was toxic, but the inside was wonderful.
Right, right.
And different elements like that in fruits
Hmm.
and vegetables that I'm really looking forward to.
Okay, so we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about the state of the environment, yeah, when you get back. So,
Yes, and
mm,
I think part of this trip is really to check on the environment in the Pantanal, which is really, you know, now that the Amazon
mm,
has been in so many ways desecrated. The Pantanal is one of the few remaining pristine areas in South America. So I'm really looking forward to that.
okay, well, buen viaje y buen provecho, as they say.
Gracias,
Mm.
Daniel.